Hello and welcome to Why Medics Matter, a podcast for doctors by doctors. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Amie Burbridge.
And I'm Dr. Simon Fraser.
So, Simon, today we are going to reflect on an episode that you and Tony did, and which you talked a lot about boundaries between home and work. And one of the key things I think that really resonated with me was saying no, or how to say no, or how not to say no, or how not to say yes, I guess we should be talking about. So I'm really bad at saying no. I say yes to everything. And then I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I've got to do that. And it doesn't matter whether it's work or outside of work. Somehow, years ago, I ended up as a scout leader. And I'm like, for years and years, because I should have said no. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll do that. Absolutely. So I need some help.
Good. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Go on, start with the I don't know. Start with the bad news.
The bad news is you can't do it all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's you're not Superwoman. I'm certainly not Superman. We cannot do it all. But the good news is once you've worked it out, life gets easy. Once you accept that. Okay. The challenge is doing the things that are important and that matter.
Yeah.
And like you said, learning to say no. And I think sometimes we sort of give that mantra to new consultants: say no to everything. And I think saying no to anything is a car crash.
Mm.
I think you've got to say it's not about saying no. It's about saying yes to the right things and politely declining the things. Yeah. So why do you struggle to say no?
Honestly, because I want people to like me. And
you're people pleasing.
I'm people pleasing, and I don't want people to think I'm lazy, or I don't want to do it, or I don't want to help them. So I say yes. And sometimes I've said yes and I haven't wanted to do it. And actually that's turned out to be a great career opportunity. But I often end up saying yes to things that nobody else wants to do. And it is because I don't want to upset people. I don't want to offend people. I want to be liked.
Yeah. And we know actually the discomfort of saying no is in the moment is really, really uncomfortable, difficult. So we say yes. Okay. So we say yes in the moment because one, we want to people please, one, we want to be liked. And well, we all know that the reasons why. So we've got to learn to say no. If it's comfortable in the moment, what do you think could be helpful when you're on the spot?
I mean, I guess ultimately, when you're asked to do something, it's really to follow your gut instinct is really important as well. So do I really want to do this? And my gut, and our guts can be quite powerful. And however, that's quite an emotional response, which is helpful. But sometimes we need to think a little bit more logically. So asking ourselves the question, am I the right person to do this? Is this the right time to do this? Can be quite empowering, actually.
And I think you've hit it on it. You know, we need to look at this objective. There's an emotional response.
Absolutely.
And that often might get us in trouble at home because, it's a great opportunity to do this. And then you don't realize that actually you're going to make more sacrifices in your personal life.
Yes, exactly.
Which puts you to strain, which worries about then delivering. So one of the first things I think is if people listen out there who are struggling to say no, delay.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't need to say no in the moment. You don't need to say yes in the moment. You say, you flat out, wow, I'm really grateful that you've considered me for this. That means a lot, but I need to think about this. Is it okay? Can I take a bit of time? Can I come back to you? And that what allows you to do is to sort of disconnect from that emotional reaction immediately, go away and have a look at things, evaluate. You said, am I the right person? And I think we often really worried about the missed opportunity in time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say someone's offered you a promotion. Amie, I think you'd make a fantastic divisional director. Okay.
We don't know that.
Let's imagine. Okay.
An alternative universe.
And you think, wow, I'm so flattered. And if I don't take this opportunity, I'll never get it again. And it'll slip by. And actually, the time I said, you know what? At the minute, I've got a new family. I've just set in a new consultant post. I really want to get my skills up to speed in these areas. It'll come around again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you were asking me, I got asked if I'd be the medical director, if I'd take on the interim medical director role quite early on in my career. And it would mean drop a lot of clinical practice. And I was like, oh my God, if I don't take this opportunity now, I'll never get it again. And it's, this sort of thing. But it would have been a car crash for me, in terms of all of the things I was trying to do. And it would be, and actually the worst thing you can do is say yes to something that takes you. I think we need to acknowledge imposter thoughts. So like somebody else used to do something, in that imposter thought, I'm not ready to do it, I'm not things. And then that's a separate thing. But you also need to be really honest and say, is this the right time? Have I got the skills and stuff to really make this work? Because you don't want to take something on and then fail. I think we've got to think about, is this the right time? But the other thing we often don't do is trade. So we're now talking about trade is saying, yes, I will take this bit on the clinical service or this additional role, but I can only do that if I can offload something.
Yeah. So negotiation.
Yeah. How to negotiate, but also how to trade. And I'd stand back and think, are the benefits worth the sacrifices? And I think the honest answer is the demands on us as doctors in the NHS are huge. And if we look at the data from last year, 41% of people were boundary not taking additional roles. And actually, that's a disaster for the NHS.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we have to take on roles when we're ready, but we've got to trade, we've got to do the right timing, and we've got to be properly informed. And the other thing about protecting boundaries is delegation. How good are you at delegating, Amie?
Oh, I can't do it. I don't think I've ever done it. I'm really bad. Or I'll ask somebody in A&E, is there any chance? Do you know what? Actually, doesn't matter. I'll do it. In fact, you're the med reg on call. Shall I just take your bleep? Why don't I have the med reg bleep? You go and have a coffee. And they're like, okay, this crazy consultant who's taking the bleep off. Like, I'm really, really bad. I try to delegate to the children. I'm like, you can empty the washing machine, you can do the dishwasher, but at work, bad. And I don't know why, whether it's not because I don't trust other people. I think it all goes back ultimately to wanting to be liked.
Yeah.
And that is a massive problem, because if I ask somebody to go and review a patient in cubicle 3, they're not going to hate me. But for some reason, that's in my head, and I think that's a long-standing thing. That's something that I need to work on, probably.
But if you don't ask them to see a patient cubicle 3 and you do all of it, that's probably quite disempowering.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the ability to actually appropriately there's delegation and there's dumping.
Yes.
Yeah. They're different, but actually delegating and trusting others.
Yeah.
And some of that is, I know how I want things done. Now, you and I did a fun exercise yesterday, didn't we?
We did.
So Amie and I were just chatting about how we're working together, and this podcast is quite new and what it looks like and how we're working. And I asked Amie to draw a cat. Amie, are you happy to share your cat on camera? We'll post these in the show notes so anybody who's having a listen. Show me your cat.
Yeah, I mean, well, my cat's quite like a cartoon cat.
Yeah.
It's got very strange feet and a big curly tail. I mean, I'm not an artist, sadly.
Yeah. And this is Simon's cat, which is really quite different. So I've actually drawn a cat and draw my cat, and our cat versions are quite different.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for two things. One, when we're delegating and trusting others to do stuff. Because sometimes we then might be critical. Well, that's not what I wanted. And we've got to have that clarity. If I'm delegating, this is what it looks like. This is what good looks like. Being open-minded, actually, the person might even come up with some better ideas and stuff. But also, when we are looking at a project, a role, responsibility, what are your expectations? You know, what does good look if I take on the divisional director? What does that involve? What does my cat look like? And actually, can I fulfill that in the time you've allocated? And what do I need to not do? And how may that help me make a decision? Because we need to say yes to we really need to say yes to opportunities, but also no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think all of the things that you've touched on resonate. And I think we should probably now be a good time to reflect on those and think about the key points. So we started off the podcast by saying boundaries, how to say no. But actually what we've talked about, it's not about saying no. I don't need to outrightly say, no, I'm not doing that. Number one is delay. Use the delay tactic. You said, say, thank you. I'm really grateful for that opportunity. However, I want to think about it. I want to sleep on it. And that's a really good one to think about. Number two, and I'd never thought about this, is the trade and negotiation. Okay, so you would like me to take on this role. However, I'm going to struggle to do that with my job plan. So how about I drop this or reduce this? Great tactic. And delegation as well. What I really liked is you talked about delegation versus dumping work. Now that's really interesting because I'd never thought about it in this way, but when you delegate, we're trusting others. And that's a good thing. We're empowering them. Whereas dumping is basically just giving all your bad work to somebody and getting rid of it. You know, so delay, trade, delegate. And I think ultimately as well, it's about asking ourselves that question. If I'm being asked to do something, does it align with my values?
100%.
Does it align with what I want to do in work and in life? And does it sit comfortably with me? And I think ultimately that sort of is that big umbrella that sort of looks, you know, sort of holds everything in place. And that's really important.
Absolutely. Does this build the life I want to build?
Exactly. Yeah. And if it doesn't, say no.
Absolutely. And anybody listening out there from my generation might remember Grange Hill. And there used to be...
Yeah, I remember Grange Hill.
Oh, I wasn't sure. Zamo to
Zamo.
drugs.
Just say no.
Just say no. That's been a lovely point to finish on. Thank you, Amy. I've enjoyed our chats as always. Take care.